Hi everyone, my name is Matt and welcome to my channel. I painted a Nurgle army for Age of Sigmar a few years ago, and I got a request for a tutorial about the swampy looking bases and ooze puddles. It's a pretty simple and straightforward process, so let's grab our brushes and get started. Since we'll be using textured paste, I want to prime the base first. I used gray primer, but you could use any primer you like. The color won't make a difference. The base will have some puddles of green Nurgle goo, and before I add the textured paste, I like to roughly sketch out where the puddles will be. I'm using Averland Sunset for this step, but you could draw it with a pen if you like, or skip it altogether. With the puddles sketched out, I used an old brush to apply some textured paste to the base. There are a few specialty tools on the market for using with textured paste, but I think an old brush makes the most organic looking texture. Build up more of the paste along the edges of the puddles, and use a stippling motion with the brush to make organic texture. Because of how uneven the surface is, I think it's better to glue the model down to the base first. Otherwise it might be difficult to find a flat place for the model to stand. While the paste was still wet, I sprinkled some fine sand for extra texture. Then I added a few pieces of coarse gravel, and I used tweezers to push them down into place. Otherwise they might fall off when I paint over it. I let the base dry overnight, and then painted all the soil with thinned Rhinox hide. If you pressed the rocks into the wet paste, they should hold well and not fall off. But if you want to be sure they stay put, you could brush some thinned white glue over the top first. Now is a great time for me to ask you to do those YouTube things that we all love so much. If you're liking the video so far, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content. If you really like what I'm doing here and want to support the channel further, consider being a channel member. We have some perks including a Discord server and early access to videos. Then I dry brushed the base with Steel Legion Drab. Next I dry brushed the base with Krieg Khaki. This is a similar color to Bonewhite, but it has a greenish tone, which I think is fitting for Nurgle. I think it adds a sickly kind of hue to the ground. Then I painted the rocks with Dawnstone, leaving some of the Rhinox hide in the crevices. I highlighted the rocks with a mix of Dawnstone and Bonewhite. Then I shaded the rocks with Athonian Camoshade, again bringing in some green tones to help unify the base. Next I touched up all the puddles with a fresh coat of Averland Sunset. We'll be layering over the puddles with green next, and the yellow base will add some depth. Now to fill in the puddles, and I'll be mixing some green paint into this gloss varnish. Any kind of acrylic gloss varnish will work fine. This is a cheap craft paint, which I think is perfectly fine for bases. I mixed about 5 parts varnish to 1 part Moot green. The key here is to use very little green paint, that way the varnish is transparent. There are some similar technical paints on the market, but I think they're too expensive for bases, and I like being able to control the ratio of my mixes. I painted some varnish in each puddle and allowed it to dry. Try to resist putting in too much at one time, because it can crack if you paint it too thick. It's better to build up a few layers instead. After the first layer dried, I painted another layer to build up the depth. You can paint as many layers as you like, just make sure it dries completely before painting the next one. Once I was happy with how the green puddles looked, I painted the edge of the base with black paint. I added some small patches of dead static grass with super glue. I think smaller patches, and more of them, looks better than large patches of grass, and I like to add those on any areas that look uninteresting. I like to use a very small amount of glue, and then sprinkle the static grass on top. Gently blow some air on the base, and it'll make the grass stand up. I'd like to give a big shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support. It really is a huge help. If you want to be like these amazing people and help support what I'm doing here, just click the join button down below. Thank you. And here's the finished base, ready for your favorite diseased model to be glued on top of it. When I was mixing up the green varnish, I thought it would be cool to add some red paint instead and make pools of blood. Maybe I'll have to do something like that next. Would you like to see more basing guides on the channel? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy painting.